Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. Today, we have with us Dr. Phil. You have Dr. H up there. What you like to be referred to? I thought it was Dr. Phil.
It is Dr. Phil.
Okay. Well, introduce yourself, sir.
Okay. Again, my name is Dr. Phil. And yeah, I actually did everything in the field of education. So I have 5 graduate degrees and a doctorate. I was a special education teacher, a school psychologist. I was an assistant principal at all grade levels, area superintendent. I had 300 schools and 210,000 students. Then I was a national ambassador for United States Department of Education. Then I did just some consulting work for Apple and Amazon, and did extensive work with Oracle and their technology. And then I taught myself how to code, and after a stint of when I did that, I fell in love with coding, and I developed a couple of nonprofit coding academies for urban youth. And then I decided to develop my own product, which is PlaBook. PlaBook is a innovative reading technology that uses artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and speech recognition to help children learn how to read. And the basis of it is, in the past, the only way that we assess reading is we quietly have children read a paragraph and answer multiple choice questions. And that is actually has nothing to do with basic reading. That's reading comprehension. And so we have never assessed basic reading unless you personally sit down next to a student. What a teacher does is called a running record. You have the student read and you mark every single error, and that takes 20 to 30 minutes per student. And so what we developed was a tool that actually can hear the child read every time a child picks up a book, one of our books, and they read it, and we can mark every error that the child made. We actually are different from regular speech engines, to where they usually just hear, record basically what the child read. We not only can hear what they read, but we can hear all the way down to the phonemic level. So if a child read the word bat, we can hear b, at, or the lack thereof. And it's a great tool that's in a lot of school districts and been, around the world today. And then, of course, I'm an author and a public speaker, but those are
Of
just
course.
a few things about me.
Yeah. I have never had an introduction like that. Oh my gosh. Like 5 postgraduate degrees. You just like school, huh? You
Well, yeah, I'm
you love
finishing up
school.
another one. Yeah, I have 6, and then I'm finishing up
Oh,
another graduate degree now, MBA in business. I mean, I just love learning. I just believe
lovely.
that's the best platform that I have to learn, outside of interactive podcasts and those kind of things, talking to interesting people like yourself and just kind of, going
Oh,
back and forth, talking.
so kind. No, okay. So oh, there's so much. Like you just dropped so much on me. So you've gone, like you said, through every field of education.
I have.
Oh my, so special
And been a professor
education
too. Been a
and a
professor as well. So at the college level as well.
oh my goodness. Okay, so through all of that experience, through the superintendent, principal, special education, everything, that led you to say, okay, reading is the issue that you saw, obviously, through all of that
Well,
experience.
reading is a major issue. And I
Mm.
don't know if you know any other research, but it basically 75% of children in the United States read below grade level at the 4th grade level. And it's
Oh,
even more
yes.
dismal for African students. Yeah. And so that's regardless of social economical status, regardless of race or anything, 75%. And that's an issue. And then they, correlate that with high dropout rate. And then 73% of crime in the United States is created by high school dropouts. 82% of prison inmates have a reading impairment that's just never been corrected.
Mm.
So it's a national crisis to me, and it's something that we have to address, especially approaching this digital era, that we're in. This where our students are no longer they no longer are competing for jobs with their next door neighbor or a state over or a county over. They're competing against jobs from a global society.
Yes.
I have a chief technology officer I've never met in person. He lives in Canada and India, and so understand that you're going to have a certain set of skills in order to compete. And the other statistics they say is that in 2030, 2040, in between that time period, 85% of jobs that will exist have not been created yet, have not been
Mhm.
invented, but they will have some aspect of technology and reading proficiency. And the reason why reading proficiency is so important is, even if you look at schooling period, whether it's homeschooling or any schooling, the way that we define a smart child is basically they memorize information and able to regurgitate facts. Well, that means nothing nowadays because you have Chat GPT, you have AI, you have a phone that can give you any information in the world, but you have to be able to critically read through it and critically apply it. And that's going to be what you're worth. That's what you're going to be paid for, and not just memorizing information and and doing well on the SAT or SAT.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes, Dr. Phil. Yes. These are the things that I used to talk about. I don't talk so much about them anymore because people weren't really like listening on that level. I used to be a 12th grade English teacher. And
Okay.
I always start because everyone always asks, where did homeschool your kids come from? Like, why did I like do this and all this? And I'm like, well, when I ended my school experience or education experience in the classroom, I ended in 12th grade. And I said, most of my students reached me not being able to write a complete sentence, reading on a third grade level. And I always
Right.
wonder, like, the correlation, and I don't do that much research. My research is more hands-on experience. So I was in the classroom for 14 plus years. But why do you feel that our kids are being left in that fourth grade space or third grade space? Why do you feel like, because
Mhm.
you've done plenty of
We have
research.
Yeah, and we have high school students who are even below the third grade level,
Yes.
as you know, as an English teacher, and we just graduate past these youngsters on. But one of the things is that it really is it's really because their foundation looks like a Swiss cheese. They have
Mm,
holes in their foundation,
mm,
and they just need those holes plugged. And the way we usually do it, like I said, addressing just reading comprehension, that's not addressing the matter. There's actually only 5 ways that you can teach reading. There's only 5 ways. It's not anything else, and it's phonics, phonemic awareness, reading fluency, reading comprehension, and vocabulary. And so
mm,
those are the 5 components of reading. And the other aspect of it is because before what we taught was whole language learning. We went away from a phonics based, scientific phonics based instruction, and whole language learning meaning you memorize words, you look at picture cues, and all those kind of things. Well, as you progress and get to higher level reading, you're going to come across words that you don't know. And not only that, what happens is our children spend so much time trying to read and decode that they have no more energy to understand. They're just
mm.
they're fighting to get through, word by word, and so they're not fluent readers, and that's because they don't have the reading foundation skills. And then you topple that with the fact that we have a large poverty population now, and a child in poverty is exposed by age 3 to 300,000 words. But a child in a middle class household or professional household is exposed to 3 million words by the age of 3.
Oh,
And so even
wow.
that gap alone, so now you got to look at background knowledge, which is very important in understanding what you read as well, to have that background knowledge and exposure. So there's a lot of things that goes into play of why right now we're having that great divide. But education is like it's a pendulum. They swing with models, and so we have a large population that got caught with this whole language learning. And teachers really, and elementary teachers, they're not real. They don't take a lot of classes on reading, and so 85% of teachers or 86% said that they learned how to teach reading from other
I
teachers in the
say
building.
in the classroom.
Yeah,
Yes.
so on the job, and so that's not an effective way to do it. And so they didn't have the background and training, and they're just, I remember being a middle school principal. I was in Chicago. I had 900 students in elementary, um, and I had teachers who will say, "Look, my kids are reading." They'll have them come read to me, and basically, see Dick run, see Dick hop, see Dick, and they just were memorizing, as opposed to teaching them how to break down, those words and give them decodable books. So yeah, there's a lot of the things, and people start to homeschool their children, to get away from all the things that are some of the negative things that happen in public school, um, and still they also need to understand or have a tool, that aids in that teaching that foundations of reading, and that's why PlaBook was developed. Despite the adult, it actually gives recommendations to the adult of where to pinpoint areas and of the student, but then on the same time, it gives recommendation of activities to the student to close the gap of those skills. And it has gamification, so the kids are just having fun, really.
Awesome. And that's an app.
Learning.
That's an app on Apple and Gameplay. What is it? Google
Well,
Play?
it's not an app, it's a reading platform, that what I usually do is direct the school district. I do site license, and then homeschool networks. I give license to they pay a yearly site license for a student, or a subscription license, and it's device agnostic, so it belongs on any phone, any tablet, any computer, and so yeah, and it's like I said, it's research based, proven, with the science of reading, and the results are phenomenal.
Okay. So it's similar to like iExcel then. iExcel, Start Reading, those type of programs.
So
Not
we have
necessarily
a
like
component.
format, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
a
So
reading program of that nature.
yeah, and the interesting fact is, like, some of the activities are like iExcel, but they have voice.
Okay.
So where iExcel may say, the letter A, what sound does the letter A make? And you have to drag an apple onto the letter A, right? But for us, we say, what sound does the letter A make? And you have to say it. And so we can hear, like I said, down to the phonemic level. So in order to advance your character, in order to get credit, you have to say it. So we know. And then we have at the highest level where we eliminate picture cues. And so if it's asking you to read a word or blend or segment or diaphones and digraphs, all those kind of things, it's asking you at the highest level to produce it sound. It does have the drag and drop and point and click, but as you progress to learn that skill, you're going to have to produce it. And that's another advantage, because kids are never allowed to practice it in those formats, iExcel and those kind of games, because the computer is saying it for them and they're not able to display it.
Oh, that is so amazing. So how important is phonetics? Because you're speaking on a phonetics tip, because a lot of these schools are focusing, or like grade level wise, they're more on the sight words, like memorization, like you spoke about. How important is phonetics? Because we got Gracie's Corner now. This is the phonics song, and so she's kind of bringing back, and I love that, because I feel like phonetics is where it starts. Like you have to learn the sound of each letter first before you can really grasp the understanding of trying to sound out the word. Because like you said, like you can memorize all the words you want, but once you get to a word that you don't know, then what?
Yep. And you spend more time just trying to figure out that word. Phonics is in the phonetic aspect of it, and phonemic awareness is very important. And that's it's aligned with the science of reading. The science of reading is old. It's never changed. But people just the cell books, like scholastics or whatever, the cell books and those kind of things, they just went away from it and went to something that's more cute. And then again, because they didn't have teachers didn't necessarily have the background of teaching and reading, they went what was comfortable to them, and it met the masses for a while, memorizing things. But this generation is different. They actually learn different. This generation is born. These are digital natives. They're born with the iPhone or iPad in their hand. I mean, 10-month-olds. I can go to a restaurant and you can see them flipping through an iPad or in their finger. They already know.
Yes,
Like
they be working.
yeah, yeah. And so and so that their brain is different the way they learn, and it's not just the one-dimensional memorization, those kind of things. The other aspect of it, what people don't know, is that teaching reading is actually like rocket science. It's not a normal thing. It's not natural process. It's actually new in our evolution of being a human. And so you have to actually rewire the brain in order to learn how to read, and it's a intentional, direct taught process. And phonics and phonemes are not something that's natural. So most people think, you're born, you start to coo and babble, you start to talk, then you learn to walk, then you learn to read, like the natural genetic process, and that's not true.
That's not how it
And so
works.
unless teachers are direct teaching those foundational skills that we just talked about, then it's going to catch up with them. And the reason why it usually does at third grade is because you're no longer reading to read, but you're reading to learn. And so you have to grasp everything that you have read, and then the end result, which the end result is comprehension. And that's what we usually assess. We assess comprehension, and then we intervene based off the comprehension flaws, but we need to intervene based off the reading foundationals skills that they lack.
Yeah, I've had adults tell me that they can read a whole page of something and not take away anything from it. Like they just they have to read it over and over type deal.
Yeah. And some of that's dyslexic. Some of that's dyslexic.
And not recognizing. I'd be thinking of my children. Okay, that letter D and that B, honey, like I don't know how to make them understand. Like, my 7-year-old, like she's just like, is that a D or a B? Like, and it's like, we've gone over this so many times.
Yeah, some of it's age appropriate reversals, letter reversals, and those kind of things. Some of it's glasses, some of it's visual processing. So for instance, but when you get to the adult level, if that stuff is still there, that's, I mean, you can diagnose it as a child, but there's definitely dyslexic issues, and dyslexia is not just reversals and those kind of things. And so it's a neurological issue of understanding phonics and phonemic awareness and those kind of things. And so it needs to be directly intervened with. But another interesting thing is, like, even when you start looking at, let's just go back to children of poverty. And by the way, it's also 70% of prison inmates have a visual impairment that has never been corrected. So if they just simply had glasses, and one of the reasons is because natural light is important. Contrasting colors are important. And so, one, you go to schools where they don't have windows, it's almost like a prison. Like they don't have windows because of the air conditioning. Sometimes you either choose between windows or air conditioning. And so those who have, air conditioning in those buildings, they don't have the natural light. The buildings are all tan, no contrasting colors. The reason why that's important is also you go home, and if I had the choice to buy light bulbs or food, I'm going to buy food. And so you go to a lot of homes that don't have light bulbs and don't have that light, and don't have contrasting colors. They have a lot of blacks and dull colors. Well, that develops the rod and cones in your eyes. The rod and cones in your eyes develop visual discrimination. And so how do you look at print and determine what print is different from the board or the print on the page? And that visual discrimination, obviously, and so that's an issue where you have a lot of dark homes, you have a lot of contrasting colors, a lot of bright colors, and those kind of things that pulls the rod and cones in the eyes. And they go to school, and that same environment is mimic. I've been at schools where people they feel comfortable, that the teachers, the adults, feel comfortable with minimum light. And they're saying, well, it keeps everybody calm. That actually has an effect on the learning environment. And so it's just a lot of different issues that that needs to be addressed. The other one is that we have a national teacher shortage. And so not only we're just putting people who can breathe in a classroom. I mean, I listen, I've seen all building staff with, and this is not a disrespectful sense, but with people
no,
who either have associate's degrees, they just have associate's degree. and they're teaching high school,
Yes,
and
sir.
and have no
AP
background in education,
classes.
obviously. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, and so just to babysit kids, and not even they don't even can't even comprehend or learn the information themselves in order to disseminate it, right? Um, and they're learning it, or not that they can't, but it is difficult to try to learn that information by yourself, and you didn't, and it wasn't taught the methodology of science or reading at a high school level, 12th grade level, to understand, different texts and literary texts and those kind of things. Or, and the other aspect of it is that our universities are actually closing colleges of education because they don't have students enrolled in it. And so
Mm.
we need to try to figure out and stop sitting back on the importance of the fact that, look, this national teacher shortage is just going to get worse. So how do we mitigate the problem? And we know it's technology. How do we utilize technology to help those issues? The same thing to me with homeschooling is there's a certain point that you can take your child, and I get it. I mean, we're all about um, um, creating a whole child, right? And so there's social emotional skills that needs to be directly taught. There's academic skills that need to be, but in order to have the rigor, um, everyone is not built for homeschooling.
Mm.
And so if that's the case, then how do you close the gap on that process? I'm not saying everyone shouldn't do it. What I mean is everyone is not built to do it by themselves. And so
Yes.
you have to utilize technology. There's ways that you can utilize technology to connect groups, homeschooling groups, for some parents to say, you know what, I'm struggling with um, physics. And there's another group of parents that are great at physics. So how do you connect them? How do you create a virtual classroom, or how do you make that communication happen to where your youngster can benefit at a high level? Because again, they're no longer competing against their neighbor or the next county over. They're going to be competing in a global society. uh, Blue collar automation already happened, and now white collar automation is happening at a fast rate. And so you have lawyers that artificial intelligence will eliminate all the basic lawyers. You just need really one. I mean, they can look up any brief and summarize it. You have doctors that they have technology now that can diagnose and give an intervention for breast cancer that is 99% accurate. And breast cancer is the most deadly cancer. And once you get it more than once, if it comes back, it's not a good um, outcome in a sense. And so to be able to have technology that can give you an intervention that is accurate more than a doctor can, a regular doctor can. And so the regular doctor is just going to have to know how to interpret that information, and then and help with the intervention plan. And so it's not just blue collar jobs or factory jobs or those kind of things now. It's rampant. It's everywhere. And again, we don't know what the future jobs are going to look like in a whole, because technology is switching over so fast.
Hmm. Yeah, no. Look, I'm just learning. Look, I'm sitting here taking all this in with my listeners. I am definitely taking all this in. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. It's a lot to think about in regards to parenting as a whole. Because when I talk about homeschool, I'm not talking about homeschool like, oh, remove your child. Everybody needs to remove their child from the public school system or private school, whatever school. No, I talk about homeschool on the level of, regardless of the school setting of the child, there should be school or learning taking place at home. There has
Yeah,
to be learning taking place at home for that child
perfect.
to be the well-rounded individual that we want them to be. Um, Technology wise, recent interview, and he was talking about Afrofuturistic, I want to say. He was talking on that
Yeah,
level of technology, but just speaking, we have to respect technology for what it is, because if you want your child to be able to succeed in the world that's going to be their future, it's going to be technology driven.
yeah,
We
and that's
see
perfect.
that.
Well, everything you said was spot on. Like if your child is in school, you still have to at home fill in the gaps. You have to.
Of
Um,
course.
the funny, well, not funny, but even when they talk about school preparation, they say that the schools that are more at risk now are not necessarily the urban schools. It's your upper middle class and wealthy schools, because they feel like they're doing it right. Their child is memorizing everything, scoring high on the ACT. They have technology in a sense, but the children are not failing per se, and they feel like they're doing right, and they're only doing right in our current system, which is educating kids for our past. They're not necessarily preparing kids for their future. Where urban schools, they're in shambles, and so they're taking risks, and they're trying, problem-based learning, and they're integrating technology to create and all those kind of things, and implementing one-on-one, and but not using it just to as a history, or say this assignment is due, or doing gaming and point and click, excuse me, but they're using it to create, like I said, and collaborate and communicate all the skills that's going to be necessary for the future. So that, like I said, regardless of school, if you're in a fluent school, it still doesn't, and your child is doing well, you still need to fill the gaps at home with exposure and technology, I would, every time my child had I don't know, an idea and he wanted to learn about it, I would pay for a course, an online course, that he went through, and I would, pay for this, that, and the other, whether it's an online course or whether it's, a local activity, photography class, or what, he was into robotics. So robotics and all those kind of things. I pay for those clubs at home, because you have to fill in those gaps and prepare your child for the future. Now he has a full scholarship at USC. He's a freshman. Not only did he have a full scholarship from the university, but from Amazon and NASA, they also gave him, additional, $50,000, $100,000. And he has an internship. But I'm not saying that was just the correct formula. But what I'm saying is that I knew that the school, which he was at a very nice school, prepared him well, but not necessarily prepared him holistically for his future that he's going to be, living in, which is a digital ecosystem.
Mm. Yeah. Look, I'm just thinking, and you threw that out there like he just got $100,000, like you just do that out there real like easy. Like, yeah, Amazon also gave him some money, but that's awesome. You said so much already, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, and I knew that. I read your bio. I knew that you were going to be a plethora of information, forward thinking information at that, because you're technology driven. Teaching yourself how to code is no easy task, by no means. I started that route, but I went to the platform route instead when making my homeschool app. It's like, yeah, no, that's a lot. I don't have that time right now. Yeah. But no, you're amazing. I appreciate all that you're doing. Spoken with someone on the superintendent level, and you were there. How is that? How political is that level? Because people feel like once you get to a certain position, it's like, oh, okay, well, you should be able to make these changes. You should be able to do this. You should be able to do that. How much control do you actually have over the school system or school district at that level? I see you shaking your head.
Superintendent doesn't have. Yeah, the superintendent doesn't have control. It's unfortunate, and one, I was a superintendent in also Mississippi. I wrote one of my books about it. I wasn't from Mississippi, so I didn't understand the landscape. But yeah, I was held at gunpoint. They would cut the brakes to my cars and all those kind of things, just because I was educating students that didn't look like them at a high level.
This isn't figurative. This is actual.
No, this is actual. Yeah, I wrote a book about it. This is a real, kind of a documentary style narrative. But yeah, no, I mean, they would cut my brakes several times. I would be driving on the highway and no brakes. And I was jogging in my neighborhood and they pulled up with shotguns, just like Ahmaud Arbery, but I just happened to, run in a zigzag and run through the woods and with the, grace of God. I made it. And so, but I, 4 years and we became one of the, top performing, growing schools in the state of Mississippi. But the point is, at that level, it is political, and your board is could be helpful or destructive. and I thought I was the boss, but I'm really just making recommendations to board members. And I
Mm,
have board members who, and again, this is not in a disrespectful sense, but I have board members who didn't even graduate from high school, but yet they're
mm,
telling me, what I'm saying is wrong on how to educate kids. And so, or people that have their hand in the money, and
oh
so,
my.
money is a big persuasive thing, and or the fact that a lot of people, if you look at the, kind of political landscape, a lot of people's roots come from being on the school board, and for some reason, people use the school board as a platform to start their political career, and
Mm,
therefore they try to make a splash or make a noise, and they pick something that they can, drag their heels in and go against, and rah rah rah, and it has nothing to do with children. It has to do with them trying to garner support, and their fan base and those kind of things, so that they can move on to other careers. And so, yeah, so there's a lot of things that have nothing to do with children. But I also seen great school boards, and I've seen great school
mm,
boards, meaning that it's not a rubber stamp board, but they work hand in hand with the superintendent, and they listen to the recommendations and those kind of things, and they do great things for kids. And so, but yeah, it's a political aspect, and then even if you take away the political part of it, let's say I have 20 or 30 schools. Well, I can't be in those schools every day. There's
mm,
no way that I'm the one that's affecting taking credit for that change. I believe that the principal is the CEO of their building, and I believe in site-based management. So as a superintendent, my role is to provide services so that they can do the best that they can to make decisions, and or have the resources to support the people who are in the classrooms, who are, have the most impact. Yeah, but I can't tell a teacher what to do. I don't have a relationship with that teacher. And actually, even a principal, telling the teacher what to do, and then that teacher goes to the classroom, close the door, and they do
yeah.
whatever they want, right? Because you can't be everywhere at once. And so it's a way that you have to empower people and have horizontal leadership, not vertical leadership, not top down leadership, but it has to be horizontal, where you're very collaborative and you're getting everybody in on the decision making process and have buy-in and feel worth, and those kind of things. I mean, we don't value our teachers enough. We don't value our administrators enough.
Mm,
Um, and then the other issue is that, unfortunately, at schools, like, we lost who our customer is. Everybody
mm,
thinks the customer are the adults, and the customer are our children and their parents. And there's no other industry that disrespects the customer
the
over
customer.
the
Yeah.
employee per se. And so, we do what's convenient for us, not what's convenient and best for kids. And so that's kind of where those issues come in, is that we're doing, what we put the needs of adults over the needs of kids.
Mm.
Um, and
What,
so,
in the
yeah,
name
and
of
so
classroom management, in the
in
name
the
of
name
making
of
sure y'all sit
everything.
down and be quiet, like,
Oh man, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's kind of wild sometimes when you see. And then the other thing is that, they said we sit on more data, or just as much data, as a Fortune 500 company,
yeah.
but we don't do anything with it but record history.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Pass
nothing
fail,
productive with
present,
it.
not
Mm,
present. Yeah, we just pass fail, present, not present. The students here, this is their grade. Um, those kind of things, as opposed to, where companies, they know more about their customer, they know more about their end user, than anyone, and they make decisions based off that. I can Before I walk in a store, they know what I'm going to buy, and they know how to
mm.
influence what I'm going to buy. I can just talk, while I'm looking at Facebook, and all of a sudden there's ads on whatever it is I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like, everything
What?
is personalized towards me, but we don't personalize a student's education journey at all. We do what's
Mm.
convenient for us.
Yes. Do you feel like more schools are needed? Like, do you feel like as far as the public school sector goes, because we talk about classroom size, and I feel like that would make all of the difference if classroom sizes were way smaller. Do you feel like that would be beneficial if there were more schools in the district? Because you know how you
Um,
start off with how many elementary schools? Like you could say like 20 elementary schools, then it trickles down to like 12 middle schools, then you get about 5 high schools. Like you know how it just condenses, but the children don't go away. It's like you still got all these kids. So what do you feel like a solution would be in that aspect?
I mean, anytime you have smaller class sizes, you have an opportunity to be impactful, but it's still depending on that adult.
Yeah.
It's a combination of adults. I mean, there's still people who are successful with large class sizes, right? It's still schools that are successful and that have extreme poverty and have children that come from extreme violent and poverty areas, and they're still top schools. And so it's not, you know, one of the things that they do say is important is the administrator, the principal, and the teacher. And they actually show that if you have a group of high performing teachers and you have a low performing principal, it actually brings down the performance of teachers. If you have a low performing teacher and a high performing principal, they can bring up the performance of teachers.
Yeah,
So,
leadership.
I mean, it's again, it goes to the adults. And I tell people, school is like little league baseball,
Mm,
meaning the kids are fine. It's the adults that's the problem.
yes. That was always my issue. I would tell you. I just tell people I love the kids. Like the kids, those
Yeah,
are my homies. Them adults though, that's where
yeah,
the disconnect comes because it's like, why are we doing half the stuff that you have us doing? Because it's not right. I feel like
right.
teachers need to have more of an input. Like, you know, they're hushing the
Yep,
teachers and they're the ones with the customer, as you said, like they're the ones that
yeah,
are forefront with these little people who need all this information or needs this personalization. And the teacher is the one that knows what they need. But
yeah,
the teacher is like the last person they listen to. It's like,
right.
okay,
And that's why I
you
talked
know what
about
you're
that.
talking
That's why I talked about that horizontal leadership necessary because the boots on the ground
about.
ignored. The people in the classroom have been ignored. But
Yeah.
then you also have those who are trying to do right and the others who are not, and that it still messes up what you're trying to do. So you have standards, behavior expectations in your classroom where they're like, Miss such and such don't let us do this, or Miss such and such does this. And so
Yeah.
again, it's like everybody needs to be on the same page. It's like we all are here for kids. We're all, let's put our ego aside and let's have some consistency because kids will live up to our expectations. They will quickly live up to our expectations, but I don't know. It's disheartening sometimes what we don't do.
Yes, yes. It's a lot. It's a lot. I just can imagine what I mean. You've been held at gunpoint for trying to change schools for the better. So, like my level of experience and your level of experience is totally different. What caused you to travel to all these different states? Because you say you were in Chicago, you were in Mississippi. Like, were you just like
Yeah, I was in Chicago, Mississippi, Tennessee,
go here, or was it school wise, like Mississippi, Tennessee?
Texas, Michigan. Yeah, I've been all over. Some are just with degree advancements and career opportunities.
Okay.
I mean, I was a superintendent for a tenured amount of time, but most people don't know that the average shelf life of a superintendent is 2 years. Um,
Mm.
every 2 years,
Oh
because
wow.
of not just because of their performance, they're not judging their performance, they're judging their relationship with the board. And you start getting a turnover of board members, and some
Mm-hmm.
people get on the board just because they don't like you, or because you suspended their kid, or because of one decision, and they get on that board, or like I said, they get on the board to make a political point, and one of their point is to come after that superintendent, and so to no fault of their own,
Oh, wow.
and then you only have less than 2% superintendents are African American. And so, you have that issue as well. And so it's just opportunity. And I, really want to affect change. Some of it, growing through my career path, I was a principal at 25. And so just kind of career advancements.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say,
sometimes,
because you don't look like for all this experience and all this school, all these degrees. I'm just like, yo, this man is like not that old at all. But okay, so 25, you were a principal. You were fast chaining it up, like.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Put it like this. I was at a junior high. And so some of my ex-students are 36.
Wow.
We like grew up together. They were like,
Basically, yes.
I was at East St. Louis and some of them were like 18. So it's just weird, like 17. They was held back so many times and stuff like that. Some of my students are 30, 20, but still, in other words, yeah, I mean, I was young in that seat, and some of my students closely match me in age. But no, again, it was just opportunity. And then a lot of the things I did with the United States Department of Education allowed me to travel a lot too, and to see a lot. But yeah, man, we just have to, it's important that we get it together. Because one is, to me, it's a level of national security. Again, if everyone's competing for the same job now. And two, that's what they talk about, the have and have nots. It's not going to be a middle class because of automation. So either you are reskilled and you have the ability, or you don't. And that word reskilling is important because it's not that it's necessarily eliminating jobs, it's repurposing jobs. For instance, everybody thinks that like McDonald's, the intercom system where you're talking to actually an AI chatbot, if it comes wrong, and then an adult or somebody, a human comes in and corrects your order, but they're training that chatbot. So pretty soon that adult will be eliminated.
Yes.
But the issue is, or for instance, they have this new technology. I think it's called like Patty, and it's a robot that actually flips burgers with accuracy, and it only costs $30,000. A lot of restaurants are starting to invest in it, and because Patty doesn't get sick, Patty doesn't call in, Patty works 24 hours a day.
Patty on time.
And Patty's on time.
Patty,
Yeah, but
Patty.
so I say that to mean that it's not that, yeah, your job is eliminated behind a grill, but who maintains that robot? Who programs it? Who cleans it? So there are still new jobs that are going to be created, but you have to be flexible. They say the next level of intelligence in the future, which is now, is the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Because technology has a shelf life so fast that your job is not going to be the same month to month, maybe year to year. You're going to have a totally different aspect of the same career field, the same title, but your responsibilities are going to be totally different. And you have to erase all that you had before in your head of how to do my job and have a different skill set to do something different.
Yes, having that flexibility. I said the bachelor's is the new high school diploma. I say, y'all think that high school diplomas mean something? They don't mean anything. That's what I used to tell my seniors. Like, y'all got to understand where we're headed. I had them on the computer a lot, but a lot of them didn't see the purpose. A lot of them, like, I remember one of my 12th graders asked me, why do I need a resume? It was like,
right.
Oh my gosh, honey. Yo, I want you to do well. I want you to succeed, but they have to see the vision also, like getting them aboard and getting them to things beyond social media or beyond just, entertainment wise.
We use
As a task.
technology. Yeah, we engage with technology in the entertainment way, but not in a way that is going to be applicable for a career field. It's about creating. It's about communicating. It's about collaborating, being creative and those kind of things. And so, yeah, the 4 C's. But yep, kids are just learning how to point and click and scroll and laugh, which is it's not is frightening in a sense. And let me also make a statement that I've also been in schools where and I've been in a lot of schools nowadays where these kids are tough. These kids are, I think education was listed as one of the, they call them hazard jobs or need hazard pay. And these kids are cussing people out and they're angry and they're dealing with a lot. And we're just trying to educate them, and we're forgetting the other aspect of it is to educate the whole child is that we need to look at the behavior aspect, social emotional development, because these babies are not getting it at home. They're not understanding how to regulate their behavior and persevere, and how to deal with adversity, and how to deal with being upset, and
Conflict
they're
resolutions.
conflict
Yes.
resolution, all those kind of things. They're looking at this what is glorified on those social medias and those kind of things, and yeah, it is frightening. It is scary for teachers also in those situations where I'm also, like I said, a psychologist, and I have a psychology clinic. And some of it was just working with teachers that are at these tough schools, and they're going in and out, and they're emotionally they're drained. They're
Yes.
emotionally they're being affected. So
Yes.
it's rough. It's also rough. I know we got to understand who our customer is, but that's another part of it, is that
Yes,
knowing who our
sir.
customer is and knowing what's the priority at that point in time. Academics is a priority, but we also have to prioritize social emotional learning in some of our schools. Some of our schools, regardless of whether the teacher is there or not, these kids are going to be successful. They have
Indeed.
the parental support, they have the background, they have the resources. They come to school already prepared. Like I said, 3 million words over 300,000 words, which is a large gap. And so they are
Indeed.
ready, are geared and ready to learn, and they can perceive information. But we have a lot of our schools that are not like that. And then we have a lot of our high schools that are considered dropout factories, where they're only
Mm,
graduating 20% of their students, 30% of their
that's
students.
wild.
And this is on a yearly basis, year after year. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot. We have the lowest high school graduation rate in history, the same as college entrance. We're very low as a nation, and so yeah, we got to figure it
Yeah,
out.
no, it's very insightful conversation. Very, very insightful. I know you're giving people a lot to think about. You're giving a lot to think about, definitely. Because things changed from the time that we were in school to the time that our kids are in school to the time that their kids are in school. But a lot of times parents or grandparents, because we have a lot of grandparents raising kids or grandkids, that they're still stuck on, well, when I was in school, and it's like, yo, it's nothing like when you was in school. Things have changed. Okay.
Right, and some of our grandparents are 40.
Yes. Yeah, no, my mom was a
Yeah,
36-year-old grandmother, so please
yeah,
understand, I
yeah.
definitely
I,
understand that wholeheartedly.
yeah,
So
I had grandparents who say they come to school and said, "This is the last time you're gonna see me because I still got to get. I raised mine."
that's a famous line that need to be on a shirt. I already raised mine. Like,
Yeah,
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 no, it still take a village, grandma. We still need you, grandma.
yeah.
Like, still need
But
you. But
that's another, and I know it's getting late, but that's another interesting thing that you said is it takes a village,
yes,
meaning that this is the first time in history that a single parent is truly a single parent.
single parent,
Single parent households were never a risk factor before, but now if you're a
because
single parent,
neighbors were involved.
don't talk to my kid. Don't say nothing to my child. My mama ain't got nothing to say to me. My brother better not say nothing to my kid. And you're isolating yourself, and
Yes.
you're truly by yourself. And that's the negative effect. Like you said, it usually takes a village, but that has fell by the wayside.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want that village anymore. A lot of people have had traumatic experiences with that village, and so they kind of shining that village out. So it's definitely always a lot of different angles that are the reason why or how we
Yep.
got to where we're at. But it's like, all right,
Yeah.
y'all, like you said, this is a state of emergency for real. People don't understand. And I speak and I talk, and I told you I don't talk as much as I used to. I let other people like you who have done all this research and have all these lovely degrees where people are going to respect and listen to on a whole different level. Because it's like, oh, well, he said it. Like, but no, we've been here. Like we've been here. These kids, I know my first year in my own personal classroom, I had a 7th grade young lady reading on a kindergarten grade level. And the suggestion was for
Wow.
me to give her pre-K work. And I'm like, how? Like, how
Right.
did you even get here? And how do I get you further? Like I cried so much that year. It's a lot because we do have the passionate teachers who are definitely there for the reason, for the cause, thinking that their classroom is about to be all the difference that's needed. But then you get in there and you're like, oh shucks, they didn't talk about this in undergrad. Like they didn't say nothing about this. Like this wasn't part of the training. We didn't go over this. Where do you go
Exactly.
from there? But I'm glad. That's why I'm grateful for individuals like you who see the problem and work on a solution. I'm so happy that you created all of that you have created and continue to create and are able to speak on the subjects that you're speaking on as a Black, profound, intelligent man. Like
Well,
that
thank you.
matters. Like you got to understand, your presence matters big time. Because it's not much of you and we need more of you. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Thank
No
you.
worries.
Thank you. Tell us more about your technology and where we can find it.
Well, it's at PlaBook education.com, www.plabook. And playbook is spelled PLABOOK. And most people are like, you're teaching reading, why do you misspell it? Well, it's actually because it's a multisyllabic word, the vowel can scream its name. So it's another play on the fact that how complicated the English language is. But yeah, so PLABOOK.com, playbookeducation.com is where you can find it. And then, and you can look up Dr. Phil on Instagram and just, yeah, send me a shout out or send me a message and would love to talk and collaborate and go a little bit further.
Yes. And I don't want to hold you, even though I could talk to you like all day. What's 3 things you would like parents to leave here with? Like 3 things that can further their homeschooling experience, just their raising of their kids in general. Just 3 things that you would like to leave families with.
Yeah, I would say expose your child outside of school. So you have to expose your child to a variety of things outside of school, because the school is only right now serving a certain aspect of their learning. That's one. Two is the social emotional development. Behavior has to be direct taught. We can't say you should know better or you should this, that, and the
Mm,
other. That you have to take time to direct teach behavior. If a child is failing in math, we wouldn't necessarily kick the child out or whoop the child. We would intervene with the intervention. The same thing with behavior. There's consequences that are needed because of behavior, yes. So you don't ignore consequences, but you also teach replacement behavior that's incompatible or inconsistent with the behavior that's there. And the third thing is again, make sure you expose your child to technology, like beyond gaming and those kind of things. Is create a project where you're just outside taking pictures, making videos, putting that with literature and writing behind it, and just creating things is important, I think. um, and so, yeah, those are the 3 things that I kind of want to leave parents with. Take
thank you
reading
so
serious, get
much.
PlaBook, or advocate for your school to purchase PlaBook.
Get,
If the school
yes.
buys it, then the parent license is free. So,
Right. Nice, nice. Yes, reading is fundamental. It's powerful. I talk to my young ladies about that all the time. That's where it starts. We got to be able to read. We have to be able to read. You don't want to have to depend on anyone telling you or feeding you back information that you can't take in on your own. Very dangerous.
right.
Very, very dangerous. But families, like Dr. Phil gave us a lot to think on, me, myself included. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to listen back to this. But thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
No
you,
worries.
thank you. Like I
Thank you.
can't say it
I
enough.
appreciate you.
Thank you. But families, in the
Good.
meantime, in between time, remember homeschool your kids.